When asked to name one of your 3 favorite things in barbecue, many people will include burnt ends on the list. But let's face it, sometimes you don't want to spend $75 or more at the store for a full packer brisket. You can use a chuck roast to make what we call poor man's burnt ends. So stick around, I'll show you how to turn this into nice, sweet, savory, flavorful burnt ends that will make everyone happy. Here we have our chuck roast, and I'm going to use mustard today as my binder. We're keeping the seasoning very simple. I just took my little shaker here and I combined 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, 1 tablespoon of coarse ground black pepper, and 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. It's just your SPG combination. I just want to get this seasoning all over the chuck roast, get it into all the little crevices. Today is going to be a long cook, so instead of using lump charcoal, which is what I usually go with, it burns hot and fast compared to briquettes. I want to go low and slow. I want to try and keep my temperature between 225 and 275, and I want these briquettes to last as long as possible, so hopefully I won't have to replenish the coals too often. I'm using my kick ash basket. We've got our briquette set up over here on the right side. I've added some oak and cherry wood chunks to this. I'm gonna get my fire going, get these coals ashed over, get them nice and hot. And while I do that, I'm just gonna let the chuck roast hang out in the refrigerator. We're gonna smoke the chuck roast until it reaches 165 degrees internal. And then at that time, we'll also be checking to make sure that the bark has settled. It should have a nice dark color. You give it the scratch test where you use your finger, run it across the exterior, and that crust, it shouldn't come off. It shouldn't still be like moist. It should be nice, settled. So once we get to that point, we'll get it off of the smoker. Stick around and I'll show you the next steps. One of the things I do like about the PK360 and just the way that it's oriented, you have enough room for the kick ash basket underneath, coals on the side, you can put a drip pan underneath the meat. We're about 4 hours into this cook, and I did have to replenish my coals. Still got a little ways to go before we get to 165 internal. The chuck roast has got some pretty decent color to it so far, so I like what I see. After 5 hours, my chuck roast reached 165 internal. Then I wrapped it in aluminum foil, returned it to the smoker for about 40 to 45 minutes in order to get it up to 195 degrees. The next thing we want to do is we just want to cut the chuck roast into bite-sized cubes, and you see the knife just cuts right through. Look at that. I mean, again, this is a nice substitute for brisket, just not as large of a cut as of meat. Should save you some money at the cash register. We're just going to add some brown sugar. We're going to follow that up and just drizzle some barbecue sauce over the top. And usually for burnt ends, right now my favorites are Killer Hogs, the barbecue sauce. I also like Blue Hogs, original barbecue sauce. Both of them go really good with burnt ends. They're more on the sweet side, so coupled with the brown sugar and the seasoning that's already on this chuck roast, it's going to give this a really nice flavor. For the final step, we've got the chuck roast back on the smoker. Just looking to get the chuck roast super tender, fall apart tender. After an hour, hour and a half, the barbecue sauce, we want it to kind of start bubbling a little bit. And that's when we know it's done and ready to come off of the smoker. So we'll check back at the end, let you see how it turned out and how it tastes. You can see that sauce is bubbling. I think this is ready to come off of the grill. I'm just gonna add a little bit more sauce. Just make sure everything is coated. Look at the color on those cubes of beef goodness. Just toss them around a little bit more. Let's recap what we did to get these poor man's burnt ends ready and delicious. We took a chuck roast, slathered it with mustard. You can use any binder that you like. Simple seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic. Everybody's got that at home. Got my PK grill up to temperature. Just wanted to keep it between 225 and 275, nice smoking temperature. The key here is to just set up your grill so that you're doing indirect cooking. Your chuck roast is not going to be directly over the coals, it's going to be off to the side. Phase one was to get the chuck roast up to 165 degrees internally. It took me 5 hours. It might take you less, might take you more, just depending on the temperature inside of your grill and also the size of the cut of meat that you're using. Remember, you're not cooking to time, you're cooking to temperature. Now, in addition to getting it up to 165, we also wanted to make sure that the bark was set. Next, I took the chuck roast off of the grill, wrapped it in foil. You can also use butcher paper. You just want to get a nice tight seal. Bring the internal temperature up to 195 degrees. That might take an hour. In my case, it only took me about 40 minutes. Then remove the chuck from the grill, let it rest for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then cube it into nice bite-sized pieces. Put it into an aluminum pan, add some brown sugar and your favorite barbecue sauce. Get it back on the smoker for an hour and a half until that sauce is bubbling. And then just for good measure, I added a little bit more sauce. So now here we are. I can't wait anymore. It smells great. It looks great. So gotta give this a taste. Everybody loves burnt ends. This is it. The tenderness is there. That sweet flavor is there from the sugar, the barbecue sauce. Now I've got to go in and get another bite. Just love how tender this chuck roast is. So slow cooking it for that amount of time, you're gonna get that tough piece of meat nice and tender. Then you add those sweet barbecue flavors and you've got yourself a winner. Let me know what you think about poor man's burnt ends in the comments. Give this recipe a try. Love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Also, check out my website, backyardsmokemaster.com. Sign up for the newsletter to make sure you don't miss out on any new videos. And I'm also posting new recipes all the time. This is Kenyatta Robinson. Thank you for joining me on my Backyard Smokemaster Barbecue channel. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.